And so if we think about the image of God, let's go back to Genesis, right? God creates male and female in his image. And when we think about what it means to be made in the image of God, I think it's important to get to the idea of what is an image. Well, an image is supposedly supposed to be a representation of something within reality, right? So if I have an image of my wife, when you look at that image of my wife, you are going to see my wife. Now, it's not my wife in all her glory, but it is a depiction, a portrait, a representation of what she actually is. And so, if we kind of take the same attitude and we go, okay, what does it mean to be the image of God? It means that we are supposed to be perfect representations of God. Now, obviously, that is not to say that there's not a creator creature distinction, but it means that within creation, we are the representative of God on earth. And so, when we bear God's image on the earth, God is known on the earth. When we do that well, God is known on the earth. And obviously we have the fall. We have man who pursues his own way. He goes his own path. He seeks to take of the fruit before it's time. And with that, we have the image of God now marred. Man is now distorted in his ability to image God within the world. Man is no longer equipped by the grace of God to do what he was created to do. Fast forward, we have Christ. Christ now is the perfect image of God, the exact imprint of God in the world. He represents God perfectly in a way that we never can, being both God and man. And he invites us by faith to participate in a reality not simply of restoring within us the ability to image God in the world, but an elevation of moving further up and further into the very life of God, so that as we bear God's image in the world, as we pursue this life of holiness, we become more and more like him until the day of our glorification, when we will image God perfectly in the world, being conformed entirely to the image of Christ. So if this is the goal, keep this in mind, if this is the goal of the Christian life, is to image God perfectly, to be conformed perfectly to the image of Christ himself, then ultimately, when we see those who have been brought into Christ, who are further along in their journey than we are, who are imaging God, by admiring them, by being filled with awe for them, by honoring them, by venerating them, we are actually doing exactly what we should be, because we are not venerating a person. We're not honoring a person in and of themselves and their own humanity. What we're actually saying is, we show you honor because you show us Christ, right? I'm sure you've had this where you have a conversation with somebody and maybe you're going through a dark time in your life, maybe there's something going on in your life, and you're seeking wisdom and counsel, and somebody comes in who is of Christ, who offers you the perfect advice, the perfect whatever it is that you need in that moment, they offer it to you. And in receiving it, you're filled with this awe, this admiration for the person that gave it to you, because you recognize their wisdom, but beyond that, you recognize Christ in them. Have you ever heard somebody say, like, man, Christ really knew that I needed to hear that, or something like that? These are things that we say sometimes without even thinking about it, where we're recognizing Christ being manifested through his image bearers in profound ways. And our admiration for one another grows. And so let me ask you this. If you have a problem with the veneration of saints, the honoring of saints, that's really all it's getting at. If you have a problem with the honoring of saints, but you don't have a problem with your heart beating a little faster at the thought of being in the same room as a particular public figure, then I really don't know what to say to you. Because if you're comfortable with that, but not with this, then it tells me that you have perhaps a misguided view of the end goal for humanity. Perhaps you have a misguided view on what it means to be an image bearer, because I can tell you that there are lots of people that I would be, a little starstruck being in the room with, but I would be very, very, very hard pressed to venerate these people the same way that I venerate the saints. And so when I stand before an icon of a saint, and we need to remember, this is not wood and paint. When we stand before an icon of a saint, we are standing before a depiction of a real human being that is alive and well, right? This is the other very strange thing. Icons are not depicting people who do not exist. Icons are depicting people who are alive and well, safe in the arms of their Savior, Jesus Christ. And so when we stand before an icon and we venerate that icon, what we are seeking to communicate and to do is to take this religious impulse, as Jordan Peterson said, and put it in its proper place, which is to honor the image of God that has been restored in that particular human being. And in honoring the image of God restored in that particular human being, we are also calling ourselves to a life of holiness, to walk in their footsteps, that we too might be honorable and worthy of veneration by others who come before us. And not because we want to think better of ourselves, but because we want people to see Jesus Christ. And that is the whole idea behind the word saint. These people are saints because they are filled with the presence of God, so that there is no darkness remaining anymore. And that's what we want with our lives, is it not? Is it not true that you and I, in our Christian life, want to be at a point where sin no longer has a hold in any area in our life, and we are cleansed and purified in entirety? That's my hope. I hope that's your hope as well. And so the idea of veneration should not be seen as this taboo, blurring the lines between idolatry and worship and all of that. Veneration is simply honoring the restoration of the image of God in his creatures. It's the religious impulse, as Peterson says, to have awe for something beyond you in a manner that is compelling. The saints are beyond us in that they have finished the race. They have won the prize. They are glorified. They are resurrected in heaven in the first resurrection alongside Christ, reigning and ruling with him. And we on this earth see them as beyond us, and it's compelling to us because that is the prize that we chase as well.